Alright, hello everyone. I'm just gonna do a quick video talking about Elite Archer because I see a lot of people playing this unit and it's a really strong unit right now and they're making some mistakes and I think people can get better. If you don't know who I am, I'm Hofma. I'm usually somewhere in the top 10 of this game. And I'm just gonna talk a little bit about Elite Archer. If you don't know, Elite Archer is one of the stronger pierce damage units in this game. It can be an effective just carry for your role. So first off, I'm just gonna lock it in, but when you're playing Elite Archer, you want a tier 1 usually, or a Garg. Both are fine, and so maybe sometimes you want both. And then with Elite Archer, you want answers for Archer's weak waves, something for 6, something for 9. Basically something that does impact damage. So right now you also want to pick strong tanks. So I'm going to pick something like this. We have Fortified tank, Karg is a really strong tank, Grawl is awesome. Okay tank lets you shift. Doomsday as for impact damage. We'll pick Yuzor for like a tank for 13 or something like that. So when you open Elite Archer, I mean, the most obvious thing that you see a lot of people do is they add a split on 1. And so the reason you do this is because you get snailed on 1, and let's say you don't have this split, something bad is going to happen to you. And it's very easy. Sometimes it's very common to get snailed on 1. I wouldn't say very, but you know, it's a possibility, so you don't want to grief your whole game like this when you can easily hold by spending 20 gold and adding a split. So this way, 1, you have a split, and 2, the important thing is that building at equal height, the snail's going right, and then the archer's main attack isn't hitting the snail, which is usually what causes it to leak for yeah, so you can see here Elite Archer is holding snail easily, and just to prove a point, I'll snail Elite Archer again on 2. And once again, you know, snail's going right, Archer's doing a lot of damage, not hitting the snail, and the split buys time for the archer to kill the left side of the wave. Alright, so that's like the easy thing. Next thing, obviously, is how do you build from there? And so I'll just, in terms of holding wave 3, you probably have something like 80-ish gold or so to build, maybe a little bit more, but I'll just show you something like, maybe it was fast waves, you aren't getting a big send, maybe the max you get is 40, so you build something maybe at the edge of the circle, and you build something in your split. Having a strong split helps the archer focus its like 3 arrows, or yeah, it's 3 arrows on a smaller group of enemies, meaning that it's actually gonna focus its DPS on a few units, killing them, which speeds up your clear. If you have an archer just shooting the wave, like even with like a normal split, it'll take longer because the archer is going to have more targets, split its damage, and not kill as many units as fast. So that's a like very basic concept of archer, and it's also a range unit, right? So this putting stuff at the edge of the range, I mean, you can put it lower too as well. It doesn't really make a huge difference. It will make a difference later when you don't want your archer to tank as much. But for now, something like this is fine. Let's say you get a full 40 cent or something. And you guys can see how this plays out. And of course, like, you guys should go into Sandbox and see how it feels to actually play these units yourself. But this is what it is for now. You can see that the archer deletes the side of the wave like really fast, and now you see the archer struggling a bit more as it's actually hitting a lot of creeps. But you know, the archer is very strong on 3. It deals enough damage where the typing doesn't really matter, and it's good arcane, or it's arcane defense, right? So it's actually kind of tanky on this wave. And then on wave 4, you're a little weaker because presumably whatever tanks you built aren't that great. So something that's common with Elite Archer maybe is that you pre-build a tank We don't have one in our role, but let's say you had something like the Windhawk. You could pre-build the Windhawk on 3, and then you have a stronger tank for 4. So let's say you get like something like a recent. Okay, this value is probably a bit too low, but for the point of the example, it should be fine. But basically it lets you maybe like shift more, push more, either or. And like a very common thing, not just with Violet, but with other tier 3s, is to shift on this wave and get the upgraded version for wave 5, wave 6, which are your weaker wave structures. So you can see it does fine, right? Like, you'd be okay with that leaking in, presumably if you're like 6 and 7 workers or something. Next part that's hard is holding wave 5. So the first thing is you don't want the boss to go right, so you'll sell the split here. And you know, this is still like a very good split in terms of getting the archer's attacks on the right targets. And I'll just show you maybe something like, maybe let's just add like one more Garg or something, and we'll show how this does against like a pretty reasonable sound on 5. And so that's why it's important to keep in mind units that are good on 5, good on 6 when you're playing archer, and try and play your build around to get those units out to support the archer. And you can, those units don't have to be amazing on 7, as long as they're, for example, the Violet is okay on 7, doesn't have great typing, but it's an HP bar. It's like a good amount of HP that buys time for the archer to do his job, right? So we have enough value, we're holding this easily. You can see how, as long as you remember to build something to help your archer DPS the boss to actually kill it, your archer will live on very small HP. You're maximizing the archer's HP pool, then this Violet will pick up the rest of the wave, and then the archer gets to stay alive, DPS, and do his job. Something on wave 6 is that this spot right here is very important usually. So what can happen is, let's say we add back our split, let's say we get our scent. So what happens sometimes on wave 6 is the aggro's a little bit, oh wait, this is wave 5. So it's wave 6. Let's say we get Dino Snail again. On wave 6, the aggro can be funky with range units, trying to split tanks to range units. The Rockos seem to be a little more aggressive. So what you can do is put a unit in this spot, protects your archer a little bit more. This way the archer only took 1 Rocko, and it's completely fine doing that. And yeah, we're gonna go for a bit of leak. This is enough value to hold up, but actually, maybe there is better positioning, but it's not that important. The basic idea is you want to put something here and then pick up a little bit of the aggro for one of the Rockos. Here without it, I would imagine it's probably not going to be a big problem either way, but since we have the Violet, but in case you don't have units that are insanely strong on 6 like the Violet. Yeah, so in this case we get the perfect aggro, right? The 1 Rocko hitting the archer. The archer can tank one of these Rockos completely fine. And we're still going to go for a bit of a leak because we don't have that much value, but you can see how the archer does a good job of tanking a little bit and then focusing firing the 3 Rockos on the left. Alright, so that's pretty much the early game. Another thing to worry about, not super worry about, but on wave 7, if you're getting a big send, 1 archer isn't actually going to be enough DPS. Generally, the threshold to actually have your archer do damage on 7 is probably a 2nd archer, and you can just put it here, right? And that usually breaks whatever threshold, like if they're sending you a lot of brutes or something. As long as you have some frontline, 2 archers should be more than enough damage for 7. If you do something like that, then of course you have to be worried about your 9. So in our original role, we had that Doomsday, which was our answer for 9, which does good damage there. Next, I'm just going to talk about late game positioning, because that's pretty much the only thing left. And I'll just show you what, like, maybe like you're not going to have these units every game, but a build that will look something like, I don't know. And let's just go to wave 14 or something. a wave where the archer is really strong, does a good job, where you can really see an archer's DPS shine. Maybe we'll add like a tank to our left split just to help out. And then, I don't know, let's just do like somewhat of a baby Sen, but just to give you guys an example of what archer positioning in your games hopefully looks like. So you can see we have our split, we have the archers focus firing that left side. It's especially good with units like Phoenix, which also want like a split where you can let it tank a lot of damage and then kill that split quickly. And then important is also to have your right split have strong tanks that can hold the wave for a while and just delay for your archers to kill the left side, and then hopefully your archers will join and help your tanks out. So we go for a bit of a leak, whatever, to be expected, but that's just a basic example of how you want to position for late game. And obviously late game you don't need to greed your archers for tanking. You can do stuff like, okay, for example, if we didn't have this Phoenix, we still have our split like this. Instead of trying to get like perfect archer positioning, you can just put something a little bit higher. Maybe here, like well within the circle. And then, okay, we have like nowhere near enough value, but just to demonstrate. You can see like even here, like the archer's tanking 1 creep, that's pretty good on 14, right? Maybe it's a little riskier later in the game, like 17 or something, but that's the basic idea. Okay. Hopefully you can get a little bit more out of your elite archer in the game, because I think it's one of the strongest units in the game right now, especially when you pair it with units like Phoenix that already want the split, similar to the archer. Yep, that's pretty much it for the stream. Thanks for watching.